Have you ever been in a relationship, a friendship, or even a family dynamic where everything seemed fine one day, and then suddenly, without warning, everything changed? The person you trusted became distant. The conversations that used to flow naturally became forced and uncomfortable. The peace you once felt in their presence was replaced by anxiety, confusion, and a heaviness you couldn't explain. You found yourself walking on eggshells, trying to figure out what went wrong, replaying every conversation, wondering if you said something, did something, or missed some crucial sign. You didn't cause this. You weren't asking for too much. You didn't miss a warning sign that was obvious to everyone else. What happened wasn't about your inability to read the situation correctly. It wasn't about your emotional intelligence or your spiritual discernment. You didn't fail to pray hard enough or trust God deeply enough. The shift you experienced, the distance that opened up, the walls that suddenly appeared where there used to be connection, that wasn't your fault. It was divine intervention. But here's where it gets confusing. When God intervenes to protect us, it doesn't always feel like protection. It feels like loss. It feels like rejection. It feels like something precious has been taken away from us without our permission or understanding. You loved that person. You valued that relationship. You saw potential, you felt connection, you experienced moments of genuine joy and peace. So when God begins to create distance, when He starts to close doors and block access, it can feel like punishment rather than protection. And this is where most people misunderstand what God was doing in that situation. They assume that if God was truly protecting them, it would feel good. They expect divine intervention to be obvious, dramatic, and clearly beneficial from the very beginning. But God's protection often works like a skilled surgeon. Sometimes He has to cut in order to heal. Sometimes He has to remove what feels vital in order to save what's actually essential. God saw what you couldn't see. He witnessed conversations that happened when you weren't there. He knew about intentions that were never voiced. He understood the trajectory of that relationship in ways your heart wasn't ready to accept. While you were focusing on the good moments, the connection you felt, the potential you saw, God was seeing the bigger picture. He was watching how that relationship was slowly but surely pulling you away from your purpose, your peace, and your spiritual center. Think of it this way. When a storm is approaching, a wise ship captain doesn't wait until the winds are tearing the sails and the waves are flooding the deck to change course. He reads the signs early and adjusts the direction while there's still time to reach safe harbor. That's what God does with our relationships. He doesn't wait until the damage is irreversible. He intervenes while there's still time to protect what matters most. God blocked what your heart couldn't release on its own. You were emotionally invested. You had hope. You saw glimpses of what that relationship could become, and those glimpses made it impossible for you to step back and see what it actually was. Your heart was attached. An attachment can create a kind of emotional blindness that makes us hold on to what's hurting us. So God, in His mercy, didn't ask you to find the strength to let go. He created circumstances that made letting go the only option. The separation you experienced, the distance that opened up, the walls that suddenly appeared. Those weren't signs of God's absence. They were evidence of His active protection. When someone's presence starts to steal your peace, when conversations with them leave you feeling drained rather than energized, when you find yourself constantly anxious about their approval or their mood, that's not love. That's not healthy connection. That's emotional bondage disguised as relationship. God didn't take something from you. He took something off you. He removed a weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. He lifted a burden that was slowly crushing your spirit. He extracted you from a dynamic that was teaching you to shrink, to walk on eggshells, to question your own worth and value. Your peace left that relationship because God was protecting it. Your anxiety increased around that person because your spirit was trying to tell you what your heart wasn't ready to hear. The uneasiness you felt, the way conversations became strained, the way simple interactions became complicated and exhausting, those weren't signs that you needed to try harder. They were signs that something was fundamentally misaligned. When God protects us through separation, He's not just thinking about the immediate pain. He's thinking about the long-term cost of staying connected to someone or something that's slowly eroding our spiritual foundation. He's considering the person He created us to become and the destiny He's prepared for us. And sometimes, certain relationships, no matter how much we value them, simply cannot coexist with God's plan for our lives. This is where God's protection becomes clear. The relationship that felt like everything at the time was actually preventing you from receiving what God had prepared for you. The person you thought you couldn't live without was blocking the path to the person you were meant to become. The connection you fought to maintain was keeping you from the peace, purpose, and spiritual clarity that God wanted to restore in your life. This is where God's protection becomes clear, and where the pain starts to transform into gratitude. The separation that felt like punishment was actually preparation. The distance that felt like rejection was actually redirection. The walls that appeared overnight weren't keeping love out. They were keeping confusion, anxiety, and spiritual compromise from continuing to drain your soul. God doesn't remove what's meant to stay. What left your life wasn't your future. It was the obstacle standing between you and your future. The person who became distant, the relationship that suddenly felt complicated, the connection that started to steal your peace rather than strengthen it. That wasn't your destiny being taken away. That was interference being cleared from your path. And now, in the quiet that follows that separation, in the space that opened up when that relationship ended, you can finally hear your own thoughts again. You can breathe without anxiety. You can pray without confusion. You can trust your own discernment because it's no longer being clouded by emotional attachment to someone whose presence was disrupting your spiritual clarity. What God removed wasn't your blessing. It was the distraction that was keeping you from recognizing the blessing He had already prepared. The peace you feel now, the clarity that's beginning to return, the sense of spiritual alignment that's being restored. This is what God was protecting all along. If this message brought clarity to a situation you've been questioning, take it as confirmation. God protected you in ways you couldn't see at the time.